about what's happened so far. First, is there anything that caught your attention?
The Tanuki statue. Things related to the murder. Yeah, I think none of these are that important.
Okay.
Why did the killer prepare a rope? I think the diversion might be...
Let's see.
No? Okay. Killer's actions. Why was the vase knocked over? The rope caught on the vase and toppled it. We were meant to hear the vase. But what does that tell us about who killed? When was Gane killed? I want to say before the lantern ceremony and see what he says in response. Okay. He seems to like that one.
All right. Use your reasoning to find the culprit.
Got it. I will make them confess.
It's funny because at the time of this recording, we're also recording 13 Sentinels for Surat's channel, and a big thing in that is, ooh, are you ready for your love confession? Not that I'm dating the LP or
Let's make
anything.
sense of this. Here's what I thought at first. The killer murdered my father, Gane, last night. They were also looking for something in this room, but it was too dark because the light bulb was burnt out, so they tried again. When we came by to wake my father, they panicked and escaped through the
Yeah,
window
I don't
using
think
a
that's
rope.
the case.
That must be what happened.
But one thing puzzled me. If the killer was fleeing in panic, then there is something that really doesn't make sense.
Oh, there is?
Yes. It's the fact that
The rope was tied securely.
this rope is fastened securely to the railing. You wouldn't think that it had been tied in a hurry. We can deduce that this was definitely not a spontaneous action by the killer.
Ah, so the killer had planned from the start to escape to the riverbank.
Which leads us to my next question. If the killer did, in fact, climb down this rope to the riverbank, that means there was something they didn't know. If they had known, they certainly would not have picked that escape route.
Something that would make them steer clear of the riverbank. Information that the killer didn't have?
Indeed. Something that was known to everyone, except the main suspect in this case. Namely,
Let's see what all the options were.
So Saito was at the river. Isao would wake. Tawako was up all night.
I think the glasses is the one.
last night, when Ayame lost her glasses, there was some commotion, wasn't there?
At such a late hour, too.
And that was all your fault.
Those who are present knew about Saita's plan to search the riverbank in the morning.
I know, I'm sorry.
Go get them already. I can't...
No one in that group would choose the riverbank as an escape route.
That's a good point.
That leaves only one person who could possibly be the killer. The killer is...
Well, it's obviously not him. She was there when we mentioned that.
He wasn't.
He wasn't.
So it's Aizan.
It has to be Aizan by process of elimination.
Uncle. You're the killer. You missed the commotion last night, meaning only you would think it was safe to flee to the riverbank.
I see. So I murdered Gene yesterday. Forgot something important and sneaked back in this morning. Then I appeared before all of you pretending to know nothing. How interesting. But I have an alibi. I was with a patient last night. Right up until Ayame contacted me this morning.
Yes, I am sure that is true.
In that case, I couldn't be the one who fled this room, am I right?
Uncle, you were...
I think it's the second one. The killer wasn't in Gene's room.
You didn't escape.
I'm glad you understand.
You only made it look as though you had escaped, using a simple trick.
A trick?
That rope, the cast iron kettle tied to the end of it, the vase, the Shigaraki Tanuki statue. You used all of these objects to trick us into thinking that the killer had escaped through the window.
All right, let's hear it. This kettle at the end of the rope. What do you make of it?
That...
Yeah. The other two are just ridiculous.
The kettle was used to pull the rope. You used a Tanuki statue to hold down the rope, with the kettle end of the rope outside the window. When someone opened the door and moved the statue, the rope would be pulled into this room, and the end tied to the kettle would drop down to the riverbank. This is exactly what happened when Josie opened the door this morning.
Even without you nearby, the trick would be set in motion automatically. And that's how you intended to evade suspicion.
You really do have quite the imagination. So, what about the vase? I have an interest in ceramics. Yes, but what does that prove?
As for the vase,
We were meant to hear it fall over.
Let me just look at these just in case.
you set up this vase because you wanted us to hear the sound of it falling over. By putting the rope around the vase, it would be pulled off balance and fall over. Hearing that sound, we would be convinced that the killer was inside this room.
Interesting theory. But that's all mere conjecture. Perhaps the killer actually used the rope to escape. That seems more plausible, no?
But then, I can't think of why the ashtray would end up at the riverbank.
What ashtray?
That
the
ashtray.
one which was beside the window yesterday was found on the riverbank.
So what if it was?
Think about it. To make us think the killer had escaped from the window, you needed the tanuki, the rope, the kettle, and the vase. That's all you needed. The ashtray didn't serve any purpose. So the reason we found it at the riverbank was...
Nope. Nope. Yep.
You didn't intend for it to happen. By sheer chance, the ashtray must have caught on the rope as it slid out the window. And if you were at the riverbank, would you leave the ashtray there? What if your fingerprints were on it? Or what if my father had left something in it that might incriminate you? That seems possible, and you would probably come to the same conclusion. In short, you would definitely take the ashtray and run, but you didn't. Because you weren't there at all. Let me say it again. The killer is.
I was gonna say, it's giving us no other options.
You're the killer, Uncle. Aren't you? It's time for you to come clean.
Now, let's accept for the moment that the rope was a diversion that was left by the killer. In that case, that means it was put in place right after Gene was murdered. Which brings us back to the main question, who murdered Gene? So, do you have any evidence that points to me?
I do. But before I explain my reasoning, there's one thing I'd like to ask you, Uncle.
What is it?
His name written in the guest book.
I'd like to take another look at your entry in the inn's guest book.
Convenient, I grabbed it.
Here is the guest book, which Misao has kindly shared with me. This is your writing, isn't it?
It is.
Looks like it was written with a fountain pen, doesn't it? The ink and the lines are clearly different from all the other entries. You wrote this with your personal fountain pen, Uncle.
It writes easily. I like it.
So why did you have to borrow a pencil from Misao? When you left to attend to an emergency patient, you borrowed a pencil from Misao, didn't you?
Well,
So, why?
Because...
Perhaps
The fountain pen was the murder weapon.
the fountain pen was the murder weapon, wasn't it?
Come on. Do you think you could kill someone with a
Yes.
fountain pen?
The tip is sharp enough. It's possible.
And you put enough pressure
I
in
didn't
there.
see any wounds on Gene's body that suggested death by fountain pen. Did you look closely?
Not exactly.
I don't mind waiting for the police to inspect the body, but I doubt they'll find any such wound.
If you're that confident, maybe the fountain pen wasn't the murder weapon, but there must be a reason you borrowed that pencil instead of using your own pen. It must have been because...
He needed to talk to Miss Sal.
You needed to talk to Misao, isn't that right?
What about?
You had to ensure that someone knew you were leaving.
Now, how does that prove any way at all that I'm the killer?
This doesn't seem to be the
Oh,
reason.
the black blood.
Ah,
In that case, your fountain pen was out of ink, wasn't it? You kept it in your sleeve, perhaps, and it broke during your
There we
scuffle with
go.
my father. Isn't that so? And I'd wager you didn't notice the broken fountain pen at the time. Because if you had realized it, you certainly wouldn't have left such damning evidence at the scene of the crime.
Evidence? What evidence could there be? Out with it!
Bloodstains on the tatami mat.
yep. God, he looks constipated while waiting for the answer.
Yep.
Father's bloodstains. All dried up and tinged with black. But this shade of black is more than just dried blood. It contained some of the ink from your fountain pen, you see. You got in a scuffle with my father, and the pen that was in your sleeve broke. The ink that leaked out got mixed with my father's blood. Am I right? Once we compare the composition of these stains and the ink in the guest book, the answer will be clear. This ink is the evidence that you are the killer. We solved the mystery. But one question still remained.
Well, who the hell are you?
That's my very insightful companion and fellow investigator. But more importantly, Uncle, tell me why you killed my father.
I think it's obvious because he was going against the ceremony. And more than likely, he wanted to be head of the family.
Saita told you the true purpose of the succession, I presume. This is Gene's last year, and you were next in line to become ageless, Yoshino. But Gene not only let you escape, he even gave you our last Tokijiku, the only one left in existence.
Well, not quite.
Gene vehemently opposed the Shijima family's research. He let his successor run away with the Tokijiku in an attempt to end the tradition once and for all.
Well,
And that's why you murdered him? How could you? How could you, Uncle Asa? I'll never forgive you. You didn't have to kill him!
Silence! So what if one tired shell of a man dies? Let go of me! Don't touch me!
Is that a chameleon?
So you're the Scarlet Camellia after all.
Why are you meddling in our affairs? Have we met before?
My name is Josui Sakaki.
Oh.
ah! That explains why he's got
Saka's a
Tokijiku.
false name. Don't tell me you've forgotten the name Sakaki. So it was you who left. A red camellia on the wreckage of my family home.
I see. So there was a survivor. That explains why we only found one Tokijiku in the whole estate. You'd taken them all and fled, hadn't you?
You took away my father, my mother, my child. I will never forgive you for killing my family!
Do you really think you're stronger than me?
Josui! Are you alright?
So Eizan Shijima's a Scarlet Camellia. I will make him pay for his crimes no matter what it takes. I'm sorry. You got dragged into this again, Yoshino.
What are you saying? I wanted this. This is just the beginning.
But we should not be together anymore. Just forget about me. Go out there and live the life you want. Otherwise, Gene won't be able to rest in peace.
Josui!
And the plot thickens!
Indeed!
Soon the snow began to fall, stealing away the last remnants of warmth. Left behind, alone in the dead of night, I silently watched the world around me fade to white.
Very poetic.
You're right. It is snowing on Mount Fuji. Hey.
Hey. And that might be a good time.
To stop for the night, yes. But things just keep wrapping up further and further. Well, not wrapping up, more just unraveling. What's gonna happen next? Well, I guess we're just going to find out next time. But until then, we're the Landstar saying thank you very much for watching.
Path of Logic. Catchphrase.